I'm a terrible timekeeper, so I'm going to set a little reminder here for myself so I keep to my 15 very quick slides. It's very hard to say what I want to say in 10 minutes, so I hope I make sense. I teach at the moment in North Wicklow Educate Together in Bray. I was 6 years in Coláiste Kilvantáin, and I chose specifically to leave that position, a full-time CID, so that I would have space to work part-time and bring sustainability into the curriculum in a more integrated way. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about maybe one example of a project that I've been part of in North Wicklow, and what has helped, the challenges and the opportunities as I see them. So North Wicklow Educate Together is a new school we opened last year. We currently just have first years and second years. 120 students. I teach art, ethical education, and I teach sustainability or ESD as I'm piloting it at the moment as a short course for the new junior cycle with my colleague Jerry Ann, who Davey mentioned. So myself and Jerry Ann are in the second phase of developing the content and the structure of sustainability based on the NCCA guidelines. And we've been consulting with the NCCA, and we're hoping that this could be delivered to other schools across the country. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think sustainability needs to be a separate subject in schools. I know it goes against perhaps some of the work that the department are doing. It goes against perhaps some of what the NGOs are doing. But I really feel it's very pertinent to the students who have just spoken, that they really feel like they're not getting to authentically engage in sustainability because we're trying to integrate it in the curriculum and it's not being done in a meaningful way as of yet. So in North Wicklow, it's a 1 hour per week class with additional hours during the year for the involvement of the whole school. And I see it more like a stepping stone. So one of the really great projects that we did last year was a phenomena-based learning project. So it connects in, I guess, with what Pather was talking about earlier on, about getting students to ask the right questions. So phenomena-based learning is where students are given a topic, or they can choose a topic, which they kind of come up with their own maybe sub-themes that they might choose to work on. So we facilitated a discussion around choosing the theme of sustainability, and then the students, through an online platform, came up with what was of interest to them. So I really don't think there's any point as a teacher in a kind of top-down approach of me saying, this is what you need to focus on. The students need to bring their passions and their kind of their love or their grow for what they want to do, and we need to facilitate that as teachers. So we spent about 3 weeks where the students were really given authentic time and space to think about what topics they would like to bring, and they were invited to join in small groups across the whole school. So all 50 students worked together in groups of around 5 or 6. They were allowed to choose their own groups, and they were given, as I taught them sustainability, they were given facilitation tools. So I didn't just send them off to work in a group. A little bit like what the NGOs are doing, is to give them facilitation toolkits that they can problem solve themselves, and the teacher is there more as a facilitator rather than really trying to kind of scaffold the students too much. A really important part of the learning and the PBL was that they were using the local landscape and their local community. So a lot of people got involved in the projects. We dropped the timetable for 6 weeks, 1 day a week for 6 weeks, which meant that there was no subject division. So a really big problem in second level is that students come from a primary school context where learning can be a lot more holistic. They're learning kind of subjects together, and then unfortunately subjects can get quite siloed when they come to second level. And we lose that kind of holistic approach to education. So a PBL is kind of one solution for how we can teach across different subject disciplines. So I might be working with the science teacher, or actually we had parents who were Garda vetted, and they came in to co-facilitate with the young people. And we had a biologist come in and a designer to work with some of the art students. So it was really kind of a community initiative. So some of the themes that the students were interested in was around, like, they really liked cycling and fixing bikes. So we thought, well, maybe your question is around kind of green transport and supporting green transport. One of the groups really tried to encourage them to work in their local landscape. So one group grew food, they grew salad, they foraged in the local forest for garlic and nettles, and they made pesto, and they contacted all the local supermarkets, and they were able to get stop food waste soup for 110 people. So getting all the waste, consumer waste that would have been dumped from Lidl and SuperValu supported us. And then we had a World Cafe, so people are maybe familiar with a World Cafe, where we invited students to work together with parents, members of the local community and the staff to ask 3 key questions. Why is ESD important? What should students learn? And how will the wider community kind of help us to run this initiative? I think there's often a lot of emphasis put on teachers and teachers alone to try and solve our problem of kind of climate education, and I really think that the wider community needs to be involved as well. So what's helped me is actually separate space in the curriculum. I kind of see like the module that I did was piloting with Davy was a transition year initiative, which was a 10-week course that myself and Davy co-wrote, which has been delivered to 2 schools in Wicklow, Coláiste Kilvantáin and Coláiste Bríde now as well. And the teachers that I'm working with, I also deliver teacher training. Teachers are really crying out for space to try and grapple with the methodologies, the content, and perhaps it's a discussion that we need to have with the Department of Education around allowing space for ESD to be maybe standalone, so that one teacher in a school can get to grips with what is needed before then they could integrate it across the curriculum. Collaboration with principals and staff. Principals need to be on side, or it's really, really difficult to push any agenda as a teacher in a school. And I think definitely my experience of the Educate Together ethos is that my colleagues and principals have been really supportive. Instead of rolling it out across the whole curriculum, which has been done with SPHE and CSP, and I was really glad to hear the young people talk about how sometimes that doesn't work. Teachers, if they're made to teach SPHE, I've seen they'll go into a classroom, they'll say open up the book on page 6 and we're going to learn about personal hygiene. That is not meaningful learning, and I think we really need to be careful that ESD isn't rolled out across the curriculum in a meaningless way, like unfortunately somehow in some schools SPHE and CSP is seen. And I think funding is really important. For the last 6 years I've spent my summer holidays writing to the Wicklow County Council to get local Agenda 21 funding, so that I can fund myself to do CPDs, that I can somehow pay for teachers' time, because we're being asked to have meetings after school to do CPDs at the weekends, and you will get teachers like me and Jerry Ann who are so passionate that we will give her free time. But if we're trying to roll this out nationally, there needs to be more financial support for teachers. We have issues around kind of our Croke Park hours. Some of them can be used for CPD, but it's not enough. All the teaching resources are there. There's so many teaching resources, especially at second level, but there is not time. I have a stack of books at my desk. The Eco-UNESCO resources are amazing, the Worldwise Global Schools, but it's really, really hard to find the time to actually get my head around them and to meaningfully deliver them in the school. I think some of the challenges, it was really nice again to hear the young people speak about, and Pather to speak about kind of using the word enchantment. Like I think the lack of kind of outdoor learning is really kind of important. I'm going to just skip a little bit because I'm conscious of time. I'm going to fly through this. So we're really aware of kind of our climate science. We know about environmental education. We're connected to development education or the global justice. But one thing that I think is really missing is this idea of kind of nature connection and the kind of curiosity and passion to get young people outdoors. So at the moment I'm doing a master's part-time with the University of Edinburgh, and every single one of my modules is connected to outdoor learning, bringing young people outdoors. It doesn't need to be a far-off place that you have to get a bus. And I mean, this is a forest that we have close to 10 minutes walk from our school, and we teach science, maths and sustainability in the forest. So a little example there, using maths, looking at kind of bringing the classroom outdoors, which I think happens at primary level and then falls off a bit of a cliff at second level. And I think as well the role of the Irish Forest School Association is really important, and really important that we could have them in this conversation. I'm going to briefly talk about kind of architecture as pedagogy. So we're due to get a new building in 2019 as a Educate Together school, and I'm working with the Irish Architecture Foundation to for my second year students in art to research sustainable architecture. I think it's all really well and good that we kind of prepare our young people to be politically active, to be really engaged, to have all the content that they need, to have the confidence like the Eco-UNESCO programs and Worldwide Global Schools do. But if departments are not taking what students say seriously, and if policymakers are not even kind of meeting them at the table, then we're not doing our students enough justice. We're almost getting them to the starting line, and then we're not allowing them in the race. So, like, one thing that I would really love, and I know Jerry Ann's school is trying to have a sustainability centre where we actually have an outdoor classroom, and we are influenced by, you know, architecture as pedagogy, to meet with the Department of Education's architects and have them see what the voice of the young people is, because I really think it's often much too missing in this conversation. There's a lot of talk about teacher training and the need for teacher training, and I absolutely agree, but I think it needs to be really experiential, and I think it needs to be really inspirational. So I think it's great to have teacher training in education centres, but I actually would go further than that and say it really needs to be immersed in the local landscape, that teachers are brought for weekends or residential, supported financially, and learning from the landscape, and being really kind of awe-inspired to bring that back to the classroom, because, yeah, we've got quite a long way to go. I probably only have time to talk about one more thing, so I'm going to, yeah, myself and Jerry Ann are developing sustainability in my community, in my world, as a short course, so it will be available soon. Working with the NCCA to try and have it so that if other teachers and other schools wanted to have it as a focus subject, that it could be given the space in the curriculum, that then maybe one teacher would take it on. I know I'm taking it on in my school, and I have a very supportive 5 other subject teachers. We're working in a small group to then hopefully embed it in the curriculum in a wider sense. But I think you need to start really supporting the 1 or 2 teachers who are very passionate and really trying to get this across the board. One thing that I would really like to mention before I go is the Educate Together blueprint as schools. We were at our beginning stage, we were kind of promised that we only had to teach 5 exam subjects, which meant that in Educate Together we were really being given the promise of finally space to do meaningful things like ESD in the curriculum. Unfortunately, 3 weeks ago we've been told that we now have to teach 8 exam subjects, and that's a directive by the Department of Education. So I really hope this message goes back to the department. We're having 2 steps forward and 5 steps backwards. It's totally going against what the NCCA are trying to do and what the Department of Education say that they're trying to do in their national strategy, offering it to us, and then within the space of 2 years kind of taking it back and saying, you know, we need to go back to this exam focused, which isn't really going to get us onto this path of really educating people and getting to where we need to be. I've missed about 5 slides, but